Welcome to the today's session, Sampling in Research Methodology. I am Dr. Prasad Babu, Assistant Professor, Faculty of Management, Department of MBA, SRM Ramapuram. So, sampling, introduction to sampling. Sampling is the process of selecting a subset of individuals from a large population to represent the whole. It allows researchers to make inference about the entire population without studying every individual. So, sampling plays a prominent role in the research. By means of selecting the sample size, we can predict the exact inferences. So, there is a significance and importance of sampling is cost effective, time saving, feasibility, accuracy and precision, better decision making. By means of taking adequate sample, the we take entire whole sample, it makes much cost. In spite, we take a small sample from the large sample so that it will be very cost effective. Reading the every individual make an entire time. Meanwhile, having the small space or small sample makes time saving, and it is very feasible. And the values or the results which we encounter from the small sample will be replicating to the entire population. That is very feasible. So that are the most significance and importance of the sampling. So types of sampling, we have two types of sampling. One is probability sampling and non-probability sampling. Each has different methods, and in use cases also it will be different. So in meanwhile, the probability sampling and non-probability sampling, when we have countable number of population, that means the whole population should be in a finite number, we use probability sampling. When we have infinite number, or when the population is not known, we use non-probability sampling methods. So in probability sampling methods, we have simple random sampling method, stratified sampling method, cluster sampling method and systematic sampling method. The simple random sampling method, here each and every member of the population has an equal chance of being selected. Say for an example, in lottery method, each and every member who are involved in a population have a chance of selecting. So that is called simple random sampling. So in lottery method, each and every member is having a chance of opportunity. Then that kind of method we will be calling it as a simple random sampling method. Next one is stratified sampling. The population is divided into subgroups called stratas, and a random sample is taken from each stratum. That means the whole population is classified into or divided into groups called stratas, and we are incorporating a random sample technique to extract the samples. That kind of technique is called as a stratified sampling technique. And next one is cluster sampling. So the cluster sampling, the population is divided into clusters and a random sample of cluster is selected. That means the population is classified into selection whole groups, and the clusters will take it as an samples. And as next one is systematic sampling. So systematic sampling is every nth person or every nth member of the population is selected from a random point. That means when we have a population of 10 members, we are taking second member. That means number 2, number 4, number 6, number 8 and number 10. That means every second person we are selecting. Then that kind of sampling is called as an systematic sampling technique. That means it has to follow a systematic paradigm. Next one is non-sampling, non-probability sampling methods. Here we have convenience sampling, purposive sampling, snowball sampling and quota sampling. So as we discussed, a probability sampling where we have finite number of samples, we use probability sampling, where we have infinite number of population or the entire population number we don't know. Then we go for non probability sampling methods. In that non-problem sampling methods, we have convenience sampling, purposive sampling, snowball sampling, quota sampling. So convenience sampling is participants are selected based on ease of access or convenience. That means easiest to reach population we are selecting for the study or for the research. Then that kind of technique we call it as an convenience sampling. Next one is purposive sampling. So participants are selected based on a specific characteristics or criteria. So that kind of sampling technique is called as an purposive sampling. So selecting based on expertise, we can say. So that means when we have a specific criteria for selecting a person as a member as a respondent, then that kind of sampling technique is called as an purposive sampling. Next one is snowball sampling technique. So participants are recruited through referral from existing participants. That means when we go for a collection of information or data from the respondent, from one respondent he will be referring to the another respondent. That kind of technique is called as an snowball sampling technique. Here also we are not supposed to have the entire population. That means when we are taking snowball sampling technique, we are unable to find the finite number of samples. That's why we are going for snowball sampling technique, and most probably it is called as an referral sampling technique. And next one is quota sampling. So quota sampling, participants are selected to meet specific quotas or criteria. That means meeting fixed criteria, we are taking it as an samples. Then that kind of technique is called as an quota sampling technique. Next, factors affecting sampling. So there are certain factors affecting the sampling. First one is sample size, second one is representation, and third one is bias and error, and fourth one is objectives. So when we have a specific objective, and based on the objective we are supposed to do the research, and for satisfying the objective we are selecting the sampling technique. So that means the research objective is affecting the sampling technique. So that's why we are saying research objective is a factor affecting sampling technique. And sample size. So most probably in social science researchers, the sample size is 385 responses. When we have more number of population, it is confined to 385 samples. So if you take less than that sample size, automatically your research may affect. That means sample size affects the research. So to give accurate results from the research, we need to have adequate sample size for the research. Next one is bias and error. So high bias and high error will affect the research. So when we go for selecting the non-probability sampling technique, then we may have this bias or error. That means when we are taking convenient sampling as a sampling technique for our research, and collecting the information or collecting the data from the respondent who is very nearer to us, that means who is very well known to us, they may not give appropriate answers which is expected in the questionnaire. Based on the opinions, they will give biased kind of an answers. Biased kind of answers means prescribing to sticking to one kind of an thing is called as an bias. To eliminate this bias, we have more number of techniques. We can check whether the data is having bias or not through different techniques which are available in SPSS as well as in different softwares. Next one is advantages and disadvantages of sampling technique. So advantages, as we discussed, advantages is cost effective, time efficient, manageable data size. Cost effective in the sense having the entire data into hands and predicting the entire data, we may have some sort of cost. So that kind of cost we can reduce through selecting the small samples. And time efficient, by processing the huge number of data into a system, it will leads to give more kind of an, by selecting the samples from the data and predicting the entire data, it will give also time efficient. And whichever the data we have available with us, we can manage and we can give interpretation to the entire population. And disadvantages are potential for bias, sampling error, and limited generalizability. Potential bias in the sense, when we choose this non-probability sampling technique as an sampling technique for our research, there may be some sort of bias by means of collecting data from the known persons. Okay, that means which are not aware for the which are not be an respondent, even though we are taking responses from the respondent. That kind of bias we can say it as a potential bias. And sampling errors also will be there. And when we are taking the less number of samples, or when it is preferred or consigned to one kind of an area, the results may not be generalizable to the each sector. That is also one kind of disadvantage. And common sampling errors are selection bias, non-responsive bias, and measurement errors. Selection bias in the sense, as we discussed, the person who are not intended to our research collecting the data from the non-intended person, then that kind of bias is called as an selection bias. Non-responsive bias in the sense, without reading the questionnaire, the respondent may fill the entire kind of a thing, then that leads to non-responsive bias. And errors obviously will have selecting the adequate scale or selecting the miss scale for the questionnaire, it leads to measurement errors. And finally, choosing the right sample method is crucial for accurate research outcomes. Hope this session gives an insights of understanding the sampling methods in the research. Thank you.